At the council meeting of September the 14th 2009, the councillors had agreed that if Mr Bramley missed the deadline of the 25th of September for his new drawings, they would take advice. But the clerk deemed to do otherwise. Come the meeting of the 12th of October, the clerk reported that he had chased Mr Bramley several times, but it was agreed by councillors that they should instruct their solicitors to write directly to the Crown Estate Commissioners, asking for the land to be reinstated. At the council meeting of the 9th of November, it was reported that the matter had been placed in the hands of Mossman Bowsers, the parish council's solicitors. But at that point, it was not clear if they had already sent a letter to the Crown or not. The clerk was instructed to chase up the solicitors. At the meeting of the 14th of December, it was reported that the solicitor's letter had now been sent to the Crown. At the council meeting of the 18th of January, a letter was reported via the parish council's solicitors, stating that the Crown would provide the parish council with a definitive plan in the near future. Councillors stated that they wished for the boundaries to be reinstated and that the clerk was instructed to write to the Crown informing them of this. The parish council's solicitors would be sent a copy. The letter received also stated that the Crown's agents were unable to meet with their direct tenant, Mr Poll. Why should they want to meet with Mr Poll? Mr Poll is not a councillor, and it was the council's democratic wish that the boundaries be reinstated. Ms Poll has no authority to overrule the parish council, who have made their democratic decision. Perhaps if they could have met with Mr Poll and convinced him to stop his objection to what has happened, they could cover everything up. At the council meeting of the 8th of February, the clerk reported that a letter had been sent to the Crown Estate Commissioners and a copy had gone to the parish council solicitors. Also at the meeting that night was Mr Bale of the Bale Farming Company. Never previously seen at a parish council meeting, he was to also attend the March meeting, and in the meantime apparently it had been to the parish council's offices and inquired about Mr Poll's allotments. Years previously, when an allotment was taken away from Mr Poll, it was planted with potatoes the following spring by Mr Bale, and it was Mr Bale's farming company that had now taken on the farm business tenancy taken away from Mr Poll by the Crown. Preceding the March council meeting is the annual council meeting, and due to this matter there is no open forum. So Mr Poll raised the question in the annual meeting if a reply had been received from the Crown. The response was that there was, and the clerk duly read the letter out. Mr Poll responded to the chair, Councillor Jenny Worth, that he did not quite believe what he had heard, and asked, did he actually say that with the parish council's tenancy agreement there was no entranceway? The chair responded saying that that is what she thought the clerk had said. So the clerk repeated that part of the letter, which stated that the parish council's tenancy agreement for the allotments at Holbeach Bank there was no entranceway. Mr Poll said that he could not quite believe this, as previously he had been sent letters showing the boundaries of the allotments and that there was clearly marked the entranceway. Also there had been letters stating where the boundaries were. The chair responded that she had even walked down the roadway. After further discussion between councillors, it was agreed that the clerk should be instructed to write informing the Crown Estate that they wished for the allotment boundaries to be reinstated. The chair then added that to speed matters up that when such a plan was received by the council, it should be forwarded to Mr. Poll for his consideration. At the council meeting in April, in the open forum, Mr. Poll raised the question again about the allotments. To be told by the chair that no letter had been received from the Crown yet, and until which time a revised plan had been received, there was not much else could be done. Mr. Poll expressed his concern that he thought that everything was being stalled. In the main council meeting, the clerk confirmed he had written again to the Crown, but still awaited a reply or revised plans. Councillor Harrington advised that the issue had been outstanding for far too long, and it was now time to write to the Crown Commissioners direct. Members agreed the clerk write. At the May meeting, a letter was reported back from the Crown Estate Commissioner. In the letter, he inferred that the parish council had taken far too long in notifying them of the encroachment for them to take any action whatsoever to recover the land, but also stated that they had not freely or willingly relinquished any land. Councillors were disappointed about the comments and agreed to write back to the Commissioner showing their disappointment. Having heard the report of the letter at the council meeting, Mr. Poll was to write a letter to the parish council suggesting that they enlist the support of John Hayes, MP, Lord Taylor and the Lord Lieutenant of Lincolnshire, Tony Worth, to see that justice be done. The letter was agended for the June meeting. At the June meeting, the letter was considered, along with a letter from the Crown Estate, from Peter Chamberlain. Out of courtesy, Mr. Poll left the meeting when the matter was being discussed. But before leaving the meeting noted that the lady from the press had received copies of both letters, the one of Mr. Poll's and the one of the Crown Commissioners. Councillors agreed that John Hayes MP should be written to. A few days later, Mr. Poll went into the parish council office and asked if he could have a copy of the letter sent by Mr. Chamberlain. As the lady of the press had got a copy, it was now in the public domain. He was to be given a copy. While the letter was being photocopied for Mr. Poll to have a copy, he noted that there was also a plan in the file. Subsequently, Mr. Poll contacted Councillor Harrington and asked him if a new revised plan had been received. He said he was not aware of one. Mr. Poll reminded the chairman that the previous chair, Jenny Worth, had stated that if such a revised plan was to arrive at the council office, Mr. Poll was to receive a copy. Councillor Harrington said if such a plan had arrived, he was welcome to a copy and he should ask the clerk. So Mr. Poll went into the council offices again and subsequently came out with a copy of the revised plan. Mr. Poll studied the plan and expanded it up on a photocopier, and at the July meeting in the open forum presented his findings. It was claimed that the shaded area was the area that was owned by the Crown. Surprisingly, the shaded area did not include the entranceway, yet previously letters had stated that the entranceway was owned by the Crown. Also, the plan provided to Mr. Poll by Tim Jones of the Crown Estate showed the boundaries etched in red, which showed an entranceway going to the road. Also, the plan recorded at the land registry does not show Mr. Palmer's property including the roadway. The boundary at the back of the building plots sold by the Crown was no longer straight. At one corner it was in line with the building plot, and at the other end it had moved northwards, leaving in a triangle of land that was apparently not owned by the Crown, but but not in the gardens of the householders. Was this drawn like this to make out that the piece of land that Mr. Palmer had taken into his garden was not so significant? Mr. Pole concluded that he thought the plan had been drawn in a way to cover up what had actually happened. In the main meeting, councillors expressed their concern about the discrepancies between the plan received by the council and the original plans. It was agreed that the clerk should write to the Commissioner and ask for an explanation as to why there were such differences.